at that point, there's so much that goes through your head because, again, it's like your body's broken. And, you know, why are my eggs like disappearing so fast? Like, where are they going? Like, why is my reserve so low at 33?
I think that's what's so hard too, is like all these narratives come up in a lot of the guests from season 1 that had been through the egg freezing process before, where they didn't get like an ideal amount of numbers. It's this self-blame piece that comes in, like
100%.
What did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? My body failed me. My body's broken. Welcome back to Quiet the Clock. I'm very excited to be rejoined by Ari, who was with us on season 1, and she is back to share her egg freezing journey. When she was here for season 1, you hadn't yet gone through the process. And so I feel very grateful to have you back here to share that, because I think it's so important. And I think there's so much you learn actually going through it. You know, there's all these stages of it, like thinking about doing it, what that means, all the things that comes up to be in that decision-making process, and then a whole nother journey to actually go through it. So welcome back. Thank you for being here.
And it's so nice.
Yeah, please, let's jump in and share kind of your journey.
Well, like you said, it is a journey. I think, so starting off was automatically, I thought it was going to be rough just because I knew I was going in with the expectation to get 10 eggs. It wasn't as many as we were hoping to get. And then I had to be on estrogen patches because I haven't been on birth control for years. So they put me on estrogen patches to kind of like, you know, get everything moving. And I was going on a trip at that time. So like trying to time everything, a lot of anxiety. Trying to time it. So they put me on the patches the day before I was like flying to Jamaica for a bachelorette trip. And as soon as we landed, I like started bleeding, and you're not supposed to bleed on them.
Oh, wow.
And so I start Googling, I'm freaking out. Now I had to like get cell service, call the doctor to talk about everything, but they asked me to stay on it. So I stayed on the estrogen patches. And then when I got back, another timing issue because I was going on another bachelorette trip the next week. And so that was funny, but it worked out both occasions. And I was able to like get all of my medications, and I was able to start the medications right before I left for the second trip. So I took my first shot with a room filled with 5 women.
No way. You didn't tell me that part of the story.
I know.
Wow.
Yes. So I had to leave some surprises for you.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So yes, we did the shot together. And
Amazing.
it was so nice to like have all of them in the room. Only one of the women in the room had children, two of them out of the 5. So it was just nice to like have that support.
Amazing.
And we were all watching YouTube videos together on like how to administer the shots. So that was like super cool. So went through that, and I feel like on like day 5, they hadn't mentioned like what was going on. Like at day 5, it's probably like my second visit at the doctor, and they hadn't like said how the follicles were developing. So I asked, what's going on? Like, how's everything looking?
Right,
and it was at that time where they were like, oh, we're only seeing about 5 follicles. So this is half of what we were expecting.
So let me ask you this before you continue. The number 10 came from where? Like just previous ultrasounds?
Yes.
Or like, okay.
Previous ultrasounds. The doctor saw healthy follicles at that time, and she said, we feel like we can get around 10 to 11 eggs. So hearing 5 was a lot.
Yeah.
And I documented the whole journey, and I wanted to be honest about everything that I was going through because I don't like to sugarcoat anything.
Yeah.
And there's already too many fake realities on social media. So I didn't want to add to that narrative. I wanted to be honest with myself and honest with anyone who was following my journey. So, you know, leaving that appointment was really hard. And so the next one came, and they kept me on the medicines. And on day 10, it's when she had me take the trigger shot, and we went in for the retrieval. And at the retrieval, I remember praying to God, like, just 1 extra egg. And I did get 6 eggs from the retrieval. But then the next day they called and they let me know that they were only able to freeze 2 of the eggs out of the 6. And I think that was the biggest bummer out of everything, because you don't really understand, like, what does it mean to have a healthy egg? Like, how are you guys determining what eggs can be frozen, what eggs can't be frozen? And again, I'm just like, where are my eggs? Like, it's just...
What did they, that's so interesting then you say that, because I'm instantly like, I don't even know the answer to that question. Like, I think the same. They got a certain amount of eggs, but could only freeze a certain amount. I don't even, just like...
Well, I don't know what testing is done for you guys to determine that, but that's what they said. And I think at that point, there's so much that goes through your head, because again, it's like your body's broken. And, why are my eggs like disappearing so fast? Like, where are they going? Like, why is my reserve so low at 33?
I think that's what's so hard too, is like all these narratives come up, and a lot of the guests from season 1 that had been through the egg freezing process before, where they didn't get like an ideal amount of numbers. It's this self-blame piece that comes in, like
100%.
What did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? My body failed me. My body's broken. And it's so real. And I love what you said about being so transparent with your story, because we had a guest on earlier that one of the things that we talked about was like the lack of transparency in like celebrity pregnancies, where it's like, you're this false hope of like you just get pregnant.
Pop up pregnant.
One, I commend you so much for always being here and being so willing to be open and honest, but just put it out in the social media world to just be more honest and transparent about the journey. But all these narratives, like you take this really extremely emotional and hard journey, and then you layer on all these really horrible narratives of self-blame and like failure. It's just, and it's real. That's what happens. It happens for many women that go through this.
It is. And it took a lot. Like, thankfully I had like a massive support system, like clearly from day one, with everyone in the room for the shots. Like throughout the process, like my boyfriend joined me for the shots. My sister and her fiance joined me for the shots. Everyone was around to like be a part of it, to hold my hand. I was a mess. I definitely will say my hormones were raging. I was emotional. I was crying. Irritable, like all the things. There were a lot of symptoms. I documented all of those too. Like, it was a journey. It was a lot, because I hadn't like had that amount of hormones like in my body in years. So it was a punch.
For sure.
It was a punch. And so, after the retrieval and finding out how many eggs were frozen, like I had a conversation with my doctor, and I felt really good about it, because she said, we can go right back in and do another cycle if you want, or we can wait and whatnot. I chose to wait a little bit. At first I wasn't certain that I wanted to do another cycle, but we did get to like talk, and this is data now that we were able to collect on this first time.
There's stuff you learn and you can do differently, like in terms of medication. And
yes,
I do want to ask you about, because you said this on the call too, like your experience with your doctor was really, really good. And we've had guests on here, or I have other women share with me that they don't necessarily have that same experience with their doctors, that they are doctors that like don't offer that same hope. So what was that like for you to have that?
She was amazing. It definitely put me at ease, because when you're going every day, you're not seeing the same doctor.
Right.
And so I like that from jump, they did tell me that I'm going to see a series of nurses, phlebotomists, like it's not the same person,
right?
Different ultrasound techs, like, and then even doctors to come in and talk to you about everything, like fellows, like there were so many people that I was seeing, but somehow or another, like whenever I needed to see her, she would be the one that would walk through the doors to do the ultrasound, and it would put me at ease. And I don't know if they were reporting back to her, because I wasn't even asking like for her to be the person to come in and do the ultrasound, but I could tell she paid attention to the visits and read the notes and would come in and reach out and call if she needed to.
That's great.
I could tell that was going in. So it was nice for her to really know my story and pay attention to it. And, she said, we have this data now. And so we can push your body the next go round. If you choose to do so, we can start you on the patches earlier. We can start you on the medicines early, because the reason she had said, like, let's do the trigger shot on day 10 was because she saw like 2 to 3 like really healthy eggs that she didn't want to overcook. And she was scared I would like have ovulated and we would have lost the eggs. And so we went in to go get those eggs.
Yeah.
So it was super nice to like have someone who was attentive and just really with me on the journey.
Yeah.
But the whole team at NYU Langone was like great. I will say like they were all really good.
Yeah, because I think it's just so important. I mean, support system outside of like medical support system, but to have doctors that are reassuring or really care or, you know, just offer you hope when sometimes it can feel like a hopeless situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they offered so many resources like throughout the process. Like they had nutritionists that you could speak to
that's awesome.
during the process. They were offering like fertility yoga. Like we had a lot. And before we even started the retrieval, I had to do like a 2-hour course and they shared the resources then and throughout the process.
That's awesome.
So I definitely didn't feel alone on the journey, but I can see if I did, like how it would feel to feel alone on this journey. Like it would be mortifying.
Change it completely. I have so many questions.
Yeah.
And obviously there's more to share because your journey is not over.
Not over.
What played into your decision to wait a little bit, right? So your doctor says we can go right back in or you can wait, and you've decided to wait a little bit. Tell us a little bit more about that decision.
So I think coming out of it, it's a lot of a lifestyle change, and it might only be over a 2-week course, but those 2 weeks are polarizing from your everyday life. Yeah. So it's like, I go out, I'm very social. Like I love a cocktail. So it's like, I'm not drinking alcohol. I'm really, really watching what I'm eating. You can't have sex. You can't work out. You can't do anything strenuous. So it's just like, it's life changing for you in it. And I think I needed a break so I could reset and get back to my baseline. And also I wanted to do research because at this point, like I don't want to just go into it because this didn't work right away. So I didn't have the highest of hopes that the second time around would be like the best. So I wanted to take a step back to regroup, to do research, to figure out how I want to move forward, you know, from this point. So that was probably like the biggest thing.
Yeah. And I think that opportunity to like reset and get back to a place where, cause this is one thing you said too, and it's so true, is like your body, you don't feel like yourself. Like your body doesn't feel like your own. Mentally and emotionally, it's so challenging. And this is something we talked about too. It's like, life still is happening as you're trying to like go through this journey, and you're on bachelorette parties and you're traveling and life is still happening. And I know for me, when I was going through it, it's like you're running to the doctors at like 7 a.m. and then you're trying to get to work or like make sure I see my clients. And so life does not stop as you go through this. So I think, that's an important consideration, and to know what that, you know, it's a commitment, that time. And it really is like
serious commitment. You're
still trying to work. You're still trying to be social. You're still trying to live your life while you're also trying to preserve your fertility.
And at that time too, I think, so even at the end of it, when they had me do a whole syringe, and it only makes sense to people who went through the process, but like I had to do the full syringe of Ovidrel. And so my period hadn't come on, and they had said like, when you get your cycle, that's when your body's at baseline. My cycle was 2 weeks late. So I was freaking out, and it was like a prolonged recovery because now I still can't work out for another 2 weeks, and I'm already 2 weeks outside of the retrieval. And so I called the doctor about that because I was scared. I'm like, where's my cycle?
Yeah.
What did you guys like? What's happening? And so they were like, well, you had to do like a full syringe. And when you do a full syringe, like it will, you know, it'll delay your period even more. So it took longer for me to get to a resting period and like a real peace of mind. So just a lifestyle change.
Totally.
All over just all across the board.
The other thing that we talked about on the phone was sort of this duality of what you're going through and what friends are going through. And I want you to talk to that because there were some key moments you were really confronted with that and like really in your face in a really incredible way. So I want you to share that and how you held space for what you were going through and what your friends were experiencing and sharing with you.
Yeah. So my best friend just had her first child. And so she was about 30 weeks pregnant at that time. And she was getting all of the like 3D ultrasounds. And so the day that I had like got the news about the 5 eggs, she had like been sending us ultrasounds all morning from her appointment. And I was already like having a hard time, and I had posted on social media, but she hadn't seen it yet. And so she was, you know, just sending it, like
sharing her life,
sharing the life, sharing
with
the
her
updates.
friends.
Like, and I want to know these updates. I don't want to miss a beat in my friend circle. So she was sharing the updates. And so I'm like looking at the ultrasounds, but I'm in my office at work and I'm mortified because I'm sad that like this is happening. But also I'm like so joyful for her because this is my nephew. This is her first child. And I'm like so excited to have like a baby in like the close friend circle. And so she called me and she said, it's the awkward moment where I'm sending you an ultrasound of my baby and you just got really bad news at the clinic this morning.
Yeah.
And she apologized. And I was like, you don't have to apologize. Like just through tears.
Yeah. But that's so nice though that she took that moment to acknowledge where you were at and what you were going through. And I think, you know, this process confronts you with so many things. And for my experience, you know, there's a lot of things that came up with my friendships about this and where my friends were or I weren't, or where I got to and other friends were. So I think, you know, that's a real thing that comes up too, is navigating friendships and different timelines.
But I'm thankful because the whole point of a true friendship is to be able to support each other wherever you are in life.
Yeah.
And I have always been like the career driven friend, the one living in the city, best Sex in the City life. Like you said last time. Like that has always been me. And so I play my role. And it was just nice to know that my friends are also willing to play their role when I need it the most. And so it made me feel good. And, you know, she sat on the phone while I cried and she comforted me.
That's awesome.
But then we were still excited. And now her son is here. He was born on the 14th of July. And so he's new. He's like a week old in this world. And he's so cute. And I'm so obsessed. And she sends me videos. She sends me pictures. And nothing changes. And she also knows that I'm going to do this journey again. And she's still supportive, even being a new mom.
Yeah. It's amazing. That is. And I agree with you. I think that there's space for both and friendships to hold space for both things. Yeah. So you also had another moment, kind of same confrontation of different spaces. To share that moment. The baby shower. Yes. So then I went to, why am I blanking on this? The day of your retrieval, you had to go to.
Yes. Yes. So the day, her baby shower was also the day of the retrieval. And so that's where the conflict comes with having to balance your life with this again. And so I remembered waking up. My sister had been planning the baby shower. So she wanted to be there for the retrieval, but she couldn't because she was like, okay, I want to be like, let me know what you want me to do. We're twins, so she's close. So she's like, if you want me to miss the baby shower, I'll miss the baby shower and I'll go. But I didn't want to miss the baby shower. So I know.
I think this is incredible that yes,
I was determined to like push through. And so I woke up at 5 a.m. I had to be at the doctor's for 8 a.m. So like I woke up, I was in Connecticut. I had to drive into New York with my boyfriend. We did the retrieval. I woke up from anesthesia and I'm like looking at the clock and I'm just like, okay, the baby shower starts at 1 o'clock. And you know, thankfully it all worked out. Like I asked the doctor, I was like, can I please have an early retrieval? Like the earliest as possible.
Wow.
And the doctor didn't even believe I was going to make it to the baby shower, but I don't want to miss those moments. And especially because she's not certain that she's going to have another child. It's like have a first child and wait and see what happens.
That's incredible that you would.
And I didn't want to miss it. And so my boyfriend drove us back and it was a slow crawl, but like I got back to the house, I got changed. I threw on a little bit of makeup. And we got to the baby shower and I sat. I was supposed to like host some games at the baby shower, but I didn't. It was
You're
fine.
like, I'm here.
I'm here. It took a lot to get here. So it was fine. And it's just, there were a lot of moments, even work functions that I like sat out of because I was tired. Your medicines are refrigerated.
Oh,
So there were a
yeah.
couple of times, like when we went to the bachelorette trip, I had all my medicines in a cooler with ice packs because you
Shut
have to
up.
make sure.
Well, yeah.
Yes, you have to keep it cool.
Oh my God.
And
I had a moment with these medications because this was the first night I was doing the shots. I didn't know I had the medications delivered to my office and I didn't know half were refrigerated and half weren't. And I was living in Rockland at the time. I leave the city. They give me, the reception guys gave me one package. I thought I had everything. I get all the way back to Rockland and I'm missing all this medication because it's in the refrigerator in my office in the city. And I had meltdown. I called the doctor and they were able to like work it out where I had more of something. I can't even remember now, but yes, I just know very well.
Refrigeration is like real. So after work, like it's a lot. I was out with one of my artists and the president of Black Music called me and was like, I need you to come back to the office for a meeting. And I froze, like no pun intended, but like I froze and I stepped aside into like a quiet corner and I'm whispering on the phone and I'm like, hi, so like, I just have to get personal for a minute. And I told her, I'm like, I'm egg freezing right now. Like my medicines are refrigerated. I can't come back to the office for this meeting. Like I have to go home.
Yeah.
She understood. She has children and whatnot. She was like, oh my God, like that's what phones are for. Like we can do this over the phone. And I'm like, thank you. But it's just a lot of life things that you're juggling and nothing stops. Nothing stops.
Nothing stops. Yeah. I think that's what we were talking earlier to another guest and just, the bravery and what badass women they go through and women are badass period. But, it's a juggle. It really is a juggle. And there's like the emotions, the physicality of it. I do want to talk about the financial piece, but there's all of this while life has to go on. And then for you, these moments where, you get the sonogram picture or you're at a baby shower having gone through this. But I think that for you, it speaks to who you are as a friend to just show up and be there and still want to be there, even though, you got not great news or what you were going through. So I think the financial piece is important, but maybe like the what's next, where you are now in your journey.
Yeah. So the financial piece, I've hit my out-of-pocket max. So it would be elective care for the rest of this year. Now I'm just doing whatever I want. And so I am doing another cycle.
Okay.
But this time I've decided to add on embryo freezing.
Share about that because you and I'm new to finding out this next step because when we spoke previously, that was not on the table. So tell me kind of since our last conversation.
After our conversation, it was you that I spoke to and another friend had just like gone through a transfer. And when we spoke, I said, this is coming up a lot. Like maybe I'm going to have the conversation. And I talked to my partner about it. And because we're new, we've only been dating now for like 7 months. So it was weird to like bring it up and we jumped in from, we hit the ground running from jumps. When we met, it's like, here, I'm going through this. Hey, nice to meet you. And like, I'm egg freezing and come along for the ride. And so it's already been a lot. So I just asked him like, do you think this is something that you would be like into doing? And he knew he had a front row seat of everything that was going on. And so he knew the struggles and like what I was most nervous about. And, that prompted me to ask him the question on like, if he would be willing to like make embryos with me. And thankfully he is.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
He doesn't have commitment issues. I know that. Like,
well, we talked earlier about unready men and the journey to get them there. But so that is something to be acknowledged, to have a partner that is committed and willing to do this with you. And, I shared this on the first season. That was a suggestion made to me and a conversation I brought to Rob and I got a different answer. So I'm happy, so happy for you that he's willing and on board. I think that is great. And I think you bring up a really great point. And it was my experience too. It's sort of being of this age and having, doubt or questions or fear around potential motherhood and timelines. It prompts conversations in relationships. At least it did for me. And it sounds like for you too, earlier than maybe you would have, right? And so the pressure it could put on the relationship definitely put pressure on mine. And I think when we were on the phone too, you were saying, ideally it would look like this. Ideally, I would be married before this, or ideally it would be 36, so we would have more time, or I would. But sometimes we don't get the ideally, and sort of accepting that the journey looks different, the path looks different, and sort of shifting.
The path has already been different because if you were to ask me, I would have been married with children by 26 and like done and just be coasting at this point. So it's definitely been like a different journey, but I'm welcoming it as it comes now. And I think the embryo freezing will, hopefully everything goes well with it. And it'll give me the true peace of mind, because I think what was stressing me out the most after this process was the 2 eggs, and knowing that like when you thaw the eggs, I'm probably going to lose those eggs because of the thawing process.
Right.
But with the embryo freezing, the survival rates are so high that it gives me more peace of mind to know that like they're there.
Yeah.
And if I can't naturally conceive when we try, I still have like several backup options. And I'm just happy that we're able to like get through this point. And I know, just like going back to the financial piece, it's an expensive thing to keep doing over and over again.
Yes.
And so the fact that like I had already hit my out-of-pocket max, it kind of became a no-brainer for me to just go ahead and like pull the trigger in like this year, so we don't have to like have the cost. And with Progeny, the fertility insurance I have, it covers egg freezing and embryo freezing. So everything that my partner now has to do, he's covered.
Oh, that's
and we don't
amazing.
have to worry about it and whatnot. So I'm like, I don't want to wait for 2024 to roll around to start this all over again. And it's a lot to put through your body. And so now that we have this data, my mindset is, let's give this a go. This is the second time I'm going to do it and the last time I'm going to do it, and we'll see what happens. And hopefully I can come back on season 3.
Yes, I'm already thinking that. I'm like, we are so obviously invested in you and your journey, and you have to be updated. And I know you're updating the social media world, but I love sitting down with you, and we have to, our audience is invested too. We have to hear.
And I want to be able to say that we got embryos and how many we got. Yes. And I want, like, I want this to happen. And I really want to be a mom. And I think that I'm just like going to go the extra miles that I have to go. It hasn't been like the most pleasant experience so far in this journey to motherhood that I feel like I'm already on, but I'm willing to do it. And I'm like dedicated to making sure like I can be a mom one day.
Yeah. And I just, and Sheila, who you connected us with, was here earlier, and she said, I had to try. And, I so appreciate you and sharing your journey. And I one thing, maybe this is a good place to wrap up, but I thought this was so great. I always ask, what's your advice for the audience? And I love what you said. It's like, have the conversations, because people are not doctors are not talking about this. We're not learning this in our annual checkups, and get the information. And hopefully this podcast is a place where women can get more information and knowledge. But I love that you shared that. And I don't know if other than that, you have anything else you want to share before we wrap up?
No, I think I've been talking to anyone that will listen about asking questions, and like just sharing with my friends about like, go ask the question, have the ultrasound done, ask for it, because it's not something that they're just volunteering in our annual visit. So, and I have, I'm 33. I have a lot of friends in my 30s. And so now I kind of have like started the charge of like everyone wanting to go and like look into these things and figure it out, and figure out how they want to become a parent, what path, if it's adoption, fostering, having a donor, like single parent, whatever it is, like we're all having this conversation now, because time waits for no one.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Sure. Yeah. And I think, you being here, me doing this, I think any woman that I've spoken to, there's always this desire to pay it forward, to share what you've been through, to, I'm anyone that I talk to, I'm like, check it out, go freeze your eggs if you can, get the information. So I think there is, there's like the sisterhood in if you're here, like we want to pay it forward. We want to help. So thank you for being here. Thank you for helping by being here. And we will certainly have you back on because we have to have the updates.
Yeah, we have to know about these embryos.
I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
You're welcome.